So let's tune in. Hey y'all, my name is Aaron, and I'll be your facilitator for today. And welcome to Being Black Emory's season premiere episode. Being Black Emory is a YouTube channel and podcast now, where we bring the Black community together to talk about issues and topics that are pertinent to our community. But not just our community, but also Black communities all over the world. And on this episode, we're talking about cancel culture. So you see it on social media, Twitter, all the debates on social media, the different scandals that are happening throughout the year, and the Black community is saying like, should we cancel? Who should we cancel? Or should we be canceling at all? So we want to bring that conversation to this space, to Emory, and in person. So before we get started, let's introduce our panelists. Starting on this side.
My name's London. I'm a freshman here at the college. My pronouns are he, him, and his, and I'm majoring in applied mathematics.
My name is Nadia. I'm a second year. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm majoring in psych.
My name is Marissa. I'm a second year. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm majoring in philosophy and African American studies.
Hello, my name is Daryl. I'm he, him, his. I'm a second year, and I'm majoring in business.
My name is Jael. I'm a third year. Pronouns she, her, hers, and I'm majoring in sociology and economics.
My name is Ashley. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a second year from Oxford, and I'm majoring in nursing.
Hi, my name is Mary. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I am a senior, and I'm majoring in psychology.
All right, let's get started. Let's talk about it. So our first question is, what is cancel culture?
I would say cancel culture is pretty much the act of a community canceling or deciding to disregard someone, like a famous entity, based on their actions, or based on an action that they don't perceive as being right.
And to add on that, I would say cancel culture is also not supporting them, as in not listening to their music, not streaming their content, not buying from them, stuff like that.
I feel like a big part of cancel culture is also convincing other people to cancel that person. So it's like bringing the community in and saying, okay, this person's canceled, now you guys have to fall in line or not.
Oh, and also I think another good aspect of it is realizing that you're more disappointed in what they did more than what you love what they used to do for you. Mm-hmm. Like as in, as an example, like it's more as in you hate what R. Kelly did more than you like listening to Bump and Grind type stuff.
Mm-hmm. So I have a question. So do you think, and you mentioned this earlier, can you support someone that you've canceled, support their work in particular if you've canceled them?
You guys say like me, or like?
To you all. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Which
I feel like that's kind of the point, to not support them. But I mean, I wonder like how real cancel culture is even, because you see people people continue to thrive and exist in whatever industry they're in, even after they've been so-called canceled.
Right.
So.
Lena, you look, you want to say something?
I think like supporting someone like after you cancel them, like acknowledging the artist, the artwork, but not the artist in a way. Like Kanye, I think he's like a textbook example. Like Kanye's probably been canceled who knows how many times, but people still listen to Kanye West music.
So do y'all agree with that sentiment? You can like separate the art from the artwork?
I think so.
I think it depends on how serious it was of whatever happened. Like with Kanye West, like I don't particularly listen to his music, not with anyone. I just happen to not. Like I don't really know like what's been going on with him. But as for what I know, it's like whatever he did was nothing like too serious. He just said something out of pocket, had some different opinions. That's like, I don't want to say it's okay, but that's not like years of sexual assault or like some,
Right.
So I think there's definitely layers to it and like how it affects them and how it allows them to continue doing what they're doing.
But I also feel like there are people who so-called say that they don't separate and they cancel, but when ignition comes out at the party, they be shaking their ass.
Exactly.
Like they be like they know. So I'm like, I feel like it's very hypocritical sometimes.
I disagree. I don't believe you can cancel somebody and still support the things that they do because then you're not canceling them.
Exactly.
And canceling is a very like abstract concept. Like it's more people just raising a fuss and publicly shaming someone, but there's no. With R. Kelly, cancel culture actually worked because there were charges brought against him. But like with Chris Brown, people try to cancel him every day. But you know that video of him doing the backflip goes around, and
that's what I'm saying.
yeah.
Right.
So if you're putting money into someone's pocket or you're promoting someone's work for other people to listen to and putting more money in their pocket, then you have not canceled them. You can't say you have.
And I think you made a really good point about money, because what a lot of people don't realize is that when you don't cancel somebody, you're feeding into helping them continue to do what they're doing.
Exactly.
Like for R. Kelly, for instance, if you're still listening to his music, he's still getting money off of those residuals and streams. So all of it, like the mansion where he has all those, I'm not gonna get out of his business, but you know, all the things that he's doing, you're funding his sexual assault.
Yeah.
So that's a huge thing. Like I'm glad you brought that up about money.
Another point that you made was like, what does it like cancel as this abstract concept? Like, what does it mean to cancel someone? Like, is it possible to cancel someone? Like, I don't know, because I feel like, and where does that word come from? Like, why did we decide to call it cancel culture, and who decided to call it cancel culture? Because I don't know if that's ever what happens, and maybe that's not what should happen, or maybe that wasn't the original goal even.
What I want to ask is like, how come, like, why is cancel culture? I don't know if it's in other communities, but why do I only feel like it's in the Black community? Like I only hear Black people saying, "Oh, we're gonna cancel this person," or "we're cancel." I don't really hear white people or Hispanic people or Asian people saying having a cancel culture. Correct me if I'm wrong. I just don't.
I really think, we're in the Black community. It's hard to really get information from other communities when you're deep in your own. But I've definitely heard, like, it does happen, but I feel like it happens more for our own community because we're constantly being told to hold ourselves and our own people to a higher regard. So it's like when we do mess up or someone messes up, it's like we have to nip that in the bud right away.
I think it also has to do with like the language that we use. So I know that other people do say like, oh, don't support that artist or don't support that like director or whatever, but we just decide to use the word cancel. Again, I don't know where that came from, but it also like has to do a lot with like calling for action. So like being like, this person needs to be like put into the justice system and they need to be in jail. So I see that coming from other communities, but it seems like in the Black community we just use the word cancel kind of just as like vernacular.
So my next question, right, is do you think these people are redeemable? Like, can they regain their social capital? Like,
See, for me, that's why I don't believe in cancel culture. Period, because it's like, you're saying that you're totally gonna disregard this person because of a mistake they did, because of something that they did, or something that they allegedly did. So I'm just saying that, like, yeah, I know, but I'm just saying that, like, I don't think it's right to totally disregard a person just because we're all human, and I get that they have a higher standard because they're being filmed and being portrayed as like a role model or a model that they maybe didn't want to be, but like I still feel like we're all humans and. You can't just cancel another human being.
I think it's kind of like, I think it depends because like the severity, again, I don't know who pointed that out, but like if someone's out there like sexually assaulting people and they've been doing it for years and years, there's no like redeeming yourself. Like that's disgusting behavior that should be like unacceptable in our society, and like we shouldn't be allowing or like supporting anyone who's doing that.
But who's to say they're not redeemable? Like who are we?
No,
is
but, I mean,
that our
I
decision?
guess it goes back to like kind of the conversation we just had about like, even though we're using this word cancel, it really just means holding someone accountable. And so like if we cancel a music artist from being a musician, it's like we're not canceling them as a person, we're canceling their music. Like that's not who they are. Like you don't have any kind of I guess what's the word? Like what is your claim to being in the spotlight? Like why do you feel entitled to that?
I just think like I get what you're saying, but I think it's like almost like a step further. I feel like if we don't cancel people, they're never gonna like be held accountable and realize that what you're doing is not okay, and we do not support you because of what you're doing.
and what does that look like? And that's not just to you, but to all of y'all. What does a redeemed person look like? If it's possible at all.
I think it kind of ultimately depends on what you did. So like in the case of R. Kelly, I'm not sure there's any way for him to repent for what he did. He's kind of done at this point. But I guess for like other artists, it kind of depends like severity of what you've done.
And I feel like people who have been canceled can definitely attempt to redeem themselves and make themselves a better person, and that's okay. That's perfectly fine. But you can't expect your victims to forgive you, or you can't expect people who are affected by what you did to forgive you, because that's not their job. Like, you wouldn't expect Black people to forgive like someone who was maybe racist to them or like abused them in the past just because I'm a changed person now. Like, that's not their job.
Definitely.
But don't you just feel like that's sad in a community? That's so sad to me.
So you're
Like,
just gonna forgive everyone that does you wrong every single time?
Well, you can. I feel like you can forgive but never forget. But like honestly, I there's different measures to that. There's different aspects to that. I don't think that it's just really sad to me that somebody does you wrong and it's just they're wrong forever. They're canceled forever.
Well,
and I feel also like when we were talking about cancel culture, I feel like it's trickled down to this like just menial thing. Like the R. Kelly, that's big, right? That's like that's a great example of like cancel. Even though I don't agree with it, but like when you go down, you come to college like Emory. Oh, this person did this, you cancel. Oh, he dropped the pencil, he's canceled. Like it's turned into that though. It's turned into that those like small little things that it's just everybody can get canceled at any moment.
Like you said,
Like, that seems like a straw man.
you said that you didn't disagree with you disagree with like R. Kelly being canceled. Expound more about that. I just don't. Not necessarily R. Kelly, but I'm just saying just the cancel culture. Like in that, I always use that example as like from the top to the bottom. Like that's the extreme, but then you also see it in the small little things that happen on campus. So what's the metric for canceling? Is it like is there a textbook? Like what is? Like I'm just trying to.
Like the example I'll give is like when Cardi B was like, oh, I used to like drug and like steal from guys.
Yeah.
Like people were trying to cancel her because of that, but it never really happened. So that's like at that point then we start like ranking whatever people are doing. So like apparently that wasn't enough for people to like cancel her.
Yeah, what's the metric? Like who decides? Like who like do we decide as a community? Does one person? Do we all just like say, oh, look at they're canceled? I'm trying to understand it because
I think you like decide within yourself, and
Yeah.
if there's enough people that happen to have decided the same thing within themselves, and that's when it becomes a movement. We go forward like as a community in that way.
So is cancel culture just holding? So you're saying what I'm getting is that it's holding people who should be in jail or should be like tried and like for those aspects accountable.
They should.
So is that what you're saying? So if they go to jail, then what's happening? If they go to jail and get out, so are they still canceled?
I feel like if you go to jail and get out and you're a different person now, you never do that again, blah, 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 that's fine. I'm glad you've changed, that is good for you, but it's not my responsibility to forgive you. Because you made those decisions.
We're kind of operating with this assumption that the justice system provides like sufficient retribution for the victims, and it doesn't.
Right.
So
Exactly.
That's
I don't
a really good
care if
point.
like whatever happens when R. Kelly gets out of jail, because like these victims still have to deal with that. He's still
for the rest of
canceled.
their lives.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah. So do you think like canceling is like Black people's way of like their own justice system? But not as, of course, not expensive. Yeah, but
I think it really depends. Like, it depends on the severity, because like you can't just apply the same type of thing to like every situation. For example, like Kevin Hart, a lot of people were saying that he was canceled because of like the things that he said 10 years ago, which I think that's something that I do have a problem with, is like digging up people's past after they already have changed.
And he had apologized for that
Yeah,
multiple
and he
times.
had apologized. But like in that case, I don't think cancel culture was appropriate to be like, you no longer can host the Oscars, you can no longer do this, that, and this because of something that he said so long ago.
yeah, do y'all agree with that? Like anything from like actions from the distance past, affecting their present standing.
I think time definitely plays a factor, but I also think you can't tell the groups that are offended that they can't be offended, because like they definitely said that. Like, but if they have apologized, I don't know.
Yeah, is that
people are
enough?
fine.
Like,
yeah,
like,
is that
I'm
enough?
I just feel like we're looking at cancel culture from like these little points, but like I want to discuss the bigger aspect of it, like the whole like cancel culture right here.
Right, to get to it.
So
yeah.
what like do y'all agree with that? Y'all, I feel like you gave like conflicting. You said certain points yes, certain points no. You saying certain points yes or certain points no. So like what? So in the aspect of cancel culture right there, do you guys agree with it? Because you guys are all giving me like yes and then no, like only this time but only that time. So what is it?
I mean, then it's not exact science, though. I mean, because I think each situation is, because it's about people and emotions, everything is so subjective. So it definitely does change. I think that, at least for me, like, I definitely say I do believe in cancel culture, but there are certain aspects where different details where I might disagree with somebody else and have my own take on what that is.
I think if you brought harm to others through your actions or your speech, then someone out there is going to have the right to cancel you if you've offended them. But I mean, that's what is going to offend certain people is not going to offend everyone. So like, not everyone's going to agree. We should just cancel him. Like Kevin Hart's homophobic comments were very homophobic, and personally, after learning that, even if he has changed, I'm probably just not going to pay attention to Kevin Hart as much, because he could have apologized because he really meant it, or just because people are harassing him about it.
So, for those of you who practice cancel culture, and who does that in their lives? Yeah, okay. So what does that look like in your own life? And so we want to know, how do you practice cancel culture, why you practice it, and what it look like?
Me personally, I would say I've canceled the Kardashians, but like that just means like not watching the show. On Twitter, I put them as like muted words so I don't have to see their context. So that just makes it even easier to like forget, even though they're everywhere. It's just like, I feel like canceling is not like having to hate someone forever. It's just like you don't want to interact. There's no point in you engaging. It's not like the need for forgiveness thing. Like there's no need for forgiveness. You just don't want to interact with them because you don't like that action. So
I agree with that fully. For me, like cancel culture in everyday life is just not surrounding myself with people who are offensive or like hateful. But I feel like disagreeing with opinions may also like that may be a cause for people to cancel each other. Like okay, Daryl, I don't want you to feel like I'm calling you out or anything. Like, this is not an attack. But, like, last year you said, like, I don't know if you're joking. You might have been joking. I still don't know. But you said, like, incest should be okay if, like, the parties are consenting. And a lot of people, like, felt wild about that. And, like, they felt wild about that. And, like, do you feel like you were canceled for that in some aspect?
No, I'm not canceled. No, it's funny to me. No, because it was actually really interesting because a couple of Black Emory, like we were all at the lunch and we actually talked about Impact It. Well, what I meant about that comment for people that don't know is that I said that, okay, if you can repeat.
I was there when we had that conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was saying more of the idea of it and not the actual action.
Yeah.
Because I would never like not me.
I know.
I was just saying the idea of it and like the idea of controlling people's lives in that sense, like how we see it in the Black community, how we see it in the LGBTQ community with like gay rights or like even just people interracial marriage and stuff like that. I was just saying that that aspect of hindering that is also the same. I see that same quality in other aspects of like society. So that was more of what I was talking about it, but I don't think I was canceled for it.
No. Okay, yeah. I just know like people heard this and they felt like, oh, like he's crazy, like he's wild, I can't hang around him anymore. So for me, that's something that's the only example I can think of here of like canceling someone because they heard something that they didn't agree with and they were like, I'm not going to surround myself with that person because X, Y, Z. But if you don't feel that, it's your experience.
But it's almost turned into this thing where like I heard this person said this, and then you trickle down to other people, and they're like, oh, like. You know that game when you whisper something to somebody's ear and you pass it out? Yeah, telephone. I feel like that's what cancel culture kind of has turned to.
Like and jumping on the bandwagon type stuff?
Yeah, and it's not coming from a place of, oh, I feel this strongly about it. It's like, oh, my friend kind of feels strongly about it, so I guess I do.
Like, what's wrong with that?
What's wrong with what?
What's wrong with that? Yeah.
Because I'm sorry.
I'm listening. Talk a little more about that.
If my friend doesn't, okay.
Ooh, you're that type?
I'm not. Okay, hold on. Let me just clarify. Like, if my friend doesn't like somebody for a reason and they tell me that reason, I don't need, like, why do I need to introduce that person into my life and figure it out myself? Like, I don't need to do that. And maybe, like, why do you feel like I need to reach out to this person that my friend says she doesn't like?
I think, like, going back to, like, canceling, like, people in our, like, personal lives. Like, I personally wouldn't call it canceling. It's just purging, like, negative energy out of my life in general. Like, if you're not contributing in any positive way or bringing positive energy into my life and me to you, vice versa, then what's the point of just continuing this relationship? Or if it's not even with the person, if it's just like with the media outlets or the different things around me, what's the point of me associating with that if it's not going to be in interchangeable like relationship where we both give and receive positive energy.
But with your example of like your friend coming and saying that this person did them dirty, but you don't know you don't know everything about that. So
I don't need to.
You're saying you're saying you don't need to, but like this whole person,
Like,
this whole person, like this whole aspect of this person has just changed forever for you just because your friend said something about him.
Right, but
And
they're
this
not
is-
in
I
my
just-
life.
Go ahead, Marissa, go
They're
ahead.
not in my life.
Respond.
I'm not going out of my way to treat them terribly, like you said earlier.
But
I
that's
don't
what
need
happens.
to know anything else. Like why? Why do you feel so strongly that I need to investigate you?
I never said anything about investigating, but like why? So you feel that you can never be friends with that person?
I'm not saying all that. I'm just saying
Yeah.
I don't need to go out of my way to do anything with that person. I don't need to figure out what their side of the story was. I don't need it.
Why? Because your friend
Why
said
would
something.
I need it?
You harmed someone that's close to me clearly, and they're upset about it. And now
I think
I
Daryl's
understand.
kind of talking about. I mean, I think he's kind of talking about how cancel culture has developed, and people are making it petty, and people are making it like drama and gossip and stuff like that. I think, like, yeah, canceling culture as a whole, like, it has these different like parts of it, and so when it comes to people's like personal lives, they might take it like a little too far. And so like I think, again, like you were saying, if someone's saying something about someone else and like I have no relation to them, I have no relationship with them, I don't even know them, and they're just saying this, I'm gonna say, okay, those are your experiences and I feel bad that happened to you, but like I'm not going to take their hate, put it in myself for that other person. Like, and I'm not gonna go out of my way, like you said, to like be mad at them or anything like that.
I think as a whole, like for most of us that agree, I think we're saying that we believe in the most honest and purest cancel culture that there possibly could be. We're not talking about being petty, dragging people, hopping on bandwagons. That does come with it, but then I think let me speak for myself. Like at least I can say that I agree with the didactic side of it. If that makes sense.
You mentioned dragging. So dragging can be defined as roasting, as some of you may know, or demeaning someone's character, talk about how they look, seem to look ratchet, X, Y, and Z. Just try to compensate for the problematic things to be said.
Just a historical point or whatever. But like this kind of language that we use comes from like ballroom culture, like dragging, like when they're talking about like if you are not passing a certain way for the ballroom, they're like, oh sis, like your hairline, your shoes, your this. But it's meant as an empowering thing, because if you go out in the street and you're not passing, you will get whatever kind of violence that's coming to you. So I don't know if it's necessarily makes sense to paint these things with a broad negative stroke or broad positive stroke, because like you just said, it could be empowering to those communities to have this mechanism of critique.
Yeah,
I feel like you might think that that's empowering. Like it makes you feel good to talk about someone else, but you're pulling that crab right back down the barrel, and y'all also in that barrel.
Well, no.
Like
You're dragging from nicotine.
I'm gonna go off what she's saying, like about ballroom culture.
Yeah.
So ballroom culture is basically where LGBTQ communities or mostly transgender people, they dress up in their categories that they walk for, like, you know, showing off their outfit, and they have to look as real as possible for that category. Like realness is actually a category, and another one could be like royalty or like just like a femme queen or like butch queen, and they have to dress up and match the category as closely as possible, as well as they can. So it's kind of an empowering thing, because in society they're oppressed for trying to trying to pass by trying to wear clothes that they feel reflect their gender identity. So in this setting, they're celebrated for it, and you know, when you aren't passing or like your looks aren't as up to par with everyone else, then you're dragged for it. And now I'm done. And so in the show, these transgender women go to a country club, and they're all women of color, and they're surrounded by white people. And this white lady takes it upon herself to come up and say, you know, you don't belong here. I know what you are. I've seen you in the streets. You can't sit here. And one of the ladies gets up and she drags her. She reads her to filth. And she says, you know, don't be mad at me because your daddy paid for you to go to college just so you could get knocked up and drop out. Like, has nothing to do with me. And she, like, for me, that's empowering. Like, to put someone in their place when they felt like they were in a position of power to talk down to you, that levels things for me.
I think okay, now I get what we're all right.
Yeah.
Because I think yes, but I think that's like his point. Like I don't think dragging is putting out your truth and saying, like, exposing you. That's different. And my definition of dragging is like saying, in that situation, that person has said, well, you ugly and your hair stringy, da-da-da-da-da. That's what I think dragging is, like being unnecessarily rude or something that has something to do with the situation at hand. And that's never going to help anybody.
And she did do that.
Yeah,
no, I'm not, but she was saying, like,
shoes are
because...
cheap, your
Yeah, she went at her.
No, but for me, is that
That's not beneficial. I think it's only beneficial if you're calling out true facts
How
that
can
are...
you tell her
but-
that that's not empowering to her in that
But the thing is that
situation?
we have to realize also, just because we do things and it might feel right and it might feel great, like let's say dragging, like we've all probably done it. We've probably it makes us feel good when we drag somebody. Doesn't mean it's a good thing. Let's not forget that.
Why not?
Dragging somebody is going from a negative place and is coming from a negative place. There's no positive aspect of dragging. I don't think. It's coming from even when she says your shoes
I
are
also want to
dirty.
clarify though. So dragging is in response to something
Yeah.
problematic being said.
Yeah.
And so there's both aspects.
To be dragged, you have to put yourself in a position to be dragged. Yeah.
But in that case that you were talking about in Pose, it was coming from like an actual power dynamic that comes from a white woman who thinks that this person doesn't belong here because she's black, because she's transgender. And so it was actually like problematic behavior and something coming from like a place of institutionalized like racism and sexism and homophobia. And so I think in that case, yes, it could have been empowering to her, it could have made her feel much better. But I think right now we're talking about specifically within the black community. And so if we're out here like just like reading and dragging and shading each other like this way, like I just don't think it does anything.
But I feel like I think we're talking in relation to cancel culture. So like if you're dragging someone for doing something problematic and like I feel like what you're saying is like we're all black so we should be supporting each other, but like I may not necessarily have the same power as like someone else who might be lighter than me. So like if they're doing something that is colorist or like is putting me down as like a dark skinned woman,
what they're doing and how that is affecting.
But if they're talking about dark skinned girls are roaches and da 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 da, I'm not just gonna sit back and let like if you're not in a position, if you're not cute, honestly, it doesn't matter how you look.
But you're feeding into it.
If you're gonna call me a roach,
You're feeding into it.
I'm gonna give you my intellectual like this is why colorism sucks, but I'm also gonna call you ugly, and I'm
The
gonna
thing
say
is that
I'm gonna
that's doing exactly what they did to you. It's just going in a circle.
I wouldn't have done that to them if they hadn't done it to me.
But that's why we're here
because
in
they're
first
the one
place,
that's problematic.
because-
Like
exactly.
coming back at them with more problematic
doesn't
things.
fix anything.
But
Two wrongs don't make it right.
There's also the assumption that if you do it the right way, something will change. And if we see that over and over again does not happen, why can't we drag them down?
Yeah, but
because no, that's not how. I think.
Why do you guys agree with the Pose example, but this is crazy? Like
I think
right.
the thing is we're trying to decide what's the best way to go about dragging somebody. Like I think I agree with you. Like I'm saying, like in that situation, I think you should. No, because it's about being respectful. I think when you I think you can make a point and be respectful at the same time. I think when you can be right, but if you're mean and disrespectful, your point is almost automatically invalid. Like for instance, that white lady that was being crazy, I think you can put her in her place by stating facts and that's the best way to get revenge. If you're because you can't argue facts, you can argue opinion, you can argue whether or not I think you're ugly. But if your way of thinking, like if you're racist, that's a true fact. You said something disrespectful. That is a fact.
Okay, but
if I think you're ugly,
what the best way to get revenge is.
But we've seen it. I mean,
Well, we can talk about the most productive way. We can talk even
but
with
listen, rude is rude though. If you're being disrespectful, then you're being disrespectful.
Productive for
it's coming for you. It's coming from it doesn't matter. I understand what you're
these
saying.
are interpersonal issues.
These interpersonal issues doesn't mean it's positive though. You can feel, like I said, you can feel good about a negative thing happening. Doesn't mean it's not negative.
But like when it comes back to it, like cancel culture, in that example, it was like the 1980s. She said what she could in that time because she knew she had the power like to say it. Mm-hmm. But now in this day and age, we have social media, we have technology, and like where there's several examples of this where we put someone up on Facebook, on Twitter or whatever and say this is what this person did, this is what this person said. Mm-hmm. They said I can't speak Spanish, they said that black people are dumb, and so then everyone collectively comes together and they're like, okay, this person is problematic and we're going to cancel them. Like it's like in that case that you're giving, it's a completely different context, time period, and like relationship between those two people. But like now that we have the power to like put people on blast, to call out people, and for other people to know about it. I think that's what makes it such a different like example.
And I think let me make one point. One good example I always think about is the difference between Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. Granted, they were both great leaders. They're both great, but watch where I'm going with this. Martin Luther King, when he was alive, people thought that he was crazy. A lot of people had problems going with his idealism because people would spit in his face. Like he would get punched in the face by white men before, and you would never hear him say anything out his mouth negative about anybody. He never said white people are crackers. He never said you would never hear him say that. And Malcolm X is great, but who is the one that we attribute coming quote unquote out of the civil rights era from it being to segregation to not?
But why is that?
Because he was I'm saying because he made his point. He controlled himself in a respectful way. When you become irate, angry, and disrespectful, I'm saying that does not. You can believe whatever you want, but that doesn't get you anywhere, and it never will. It makes you feel so good in the inside.
So what I see is that there's a divide. So what influences how you cancel someone, or even if you want to cancel someone, it's like respectability politics, right? Whether you engage in that or not.
Yes. The thing is that you're stooping down to their level, though. That's what we're talking. I think it's also about levels. It makes you look like exactly.
The Michelle Obama rhetoric, like, okay, I don't know.
Explain that. Maybe they don't know.
I don't think it's necessary.
Like, what's not necessary? Like, clarify.
It's.
What's it?
Respectability.
Yeah.
The only thing that respectability does is make you palatable. Like it doesn't make you more productive. It doesn't make you a better orator.
It makes you more relatable, and people
it makes you acceptable to white people. That's all it is.
That relatability, that like sympathy, that empathy that people see, and then they're going to attribute that like this person is actually being hurt, and they're demonstrating with like maturity, with respectability, with like poise that this is what's happening, and so we needed to take care of the issue that's at hand.
I want to hear some more voices. So Mary or London, y'all jump into this.
I feel like with the respectability politics thing, I feel like try to be palatable, but that also takes away from the victim's own hurt. I shouldn't have to be less mad or control my madness or however I express my emotion so it'll be palatable, so that people will listen to me, so that my anger is valid. I should just be able to be mad, and then people understand that and we can move forward. I don't need to make it so that Jenny's gonna be like, oh, I need to help her now because I see that she's crying. Like, no, I'm mad and screaming, and help me still. Yeah.
I don't know. I think you get like two different outcomes. Like when you like tear into people and like you show them like all your rage, you get one thing. But like when you kind of like aren't like, when you're like non-violent, like talk to them in like a calm voice, you get another outcome. So I think overall it kind of like depends on your perspective and like where you're trying to go with the situation.
I think even though like MLK was respectable, he was still shot. So it doesn't matter at the end of the day because they still tried to kill him, or they still did kill him. So it doesn't matter how black you are or how palatable you made yourself. You still have to remember the context we live in. We live in a white world.
But also, I feel like it's more about the impact. I feel like it's more about the impact.
I feel like
matters.
both Malcolm X and Martin Luther King had an impact, and like neither like
they both got shot.
Yeah.
No. But to make a point, who shot them? Martin Luther King was assassinated by a white man, but who killed Malcolm X? His own people.
And on that point, we're going to conclude the episode. Wait. Can you clarify your point about Malcolm X that you were making?
So basically, I think in the past, like Malcolm X, he was a great leader, but Martin Luther King and Malcolm X led in two completely different ways. Malcolm X's main central dogma of his belief was they're mean to us and we're going to be mean to them and we're going to take force and we're going to take back what's ours. Martin Luther King's central dogma was like they're mean to us but we're going to turn and give the other cheek. We're going to be respectful, move forward, and get what we want. So I think there's two different ways to go about it, but I side with Martin Luther King personally on my side because that's what works. It does not feel good. No. I think it does not feel good to give somebody the other cheek, but there's so much beauty in doing that. And I think as humans, we're so quick to, well, I want to retaliate, I want to fight back, I want to do what makes me feel good to make me think that I'm vindicated. You're not vindicating anything. It feels like you are. You really think that you are, but you're not getting any more forward than what you were in. Really, you're even going backwards, in my opinion.
I disagree. I feel like
That's cute.
I feel like if you're talking to someone who's ignorant, then whether or not you're nonviolent, violent, whatever, they're still going to be ignorant. It doesn't matter what you do, what you say, whatever. You're like, and in that, if they're open to having a conversation with you about whatever topic you're disagreeing about, that's fine. I feel then you should try to communicate and open a dialogue. But if someone is just being blatantly ignorant, like your example, white people during the 60s when Martin Luther King was getting punched in the face and all that, I feel like if Martin Luther King tried to open a conversation with him, they would just do the same thing again. They would punch him in the face. Why do I have to suffer abuse to prove a point that I'm mature and like
Because
vindicated?
over time, it's like a steady jerk where
you're
it's a
operating
hole in a
from a
rock.
place of a false progress narrative.
Yeah, why is that progress? Like, why is
that
not doing
progress?
anything?
Then why is your
Well, we had the
progress?
civil
Because at least I feel better about
At
it.
least
That's
you feel
progress
better.
from the last point I was at.
Like, we got the Civil Rights Act of 1965, but
Four.
like 64, but as of 2012, they haven't reinstated it, and we have all this gerrymandering that's happening today. We still have redlining in effect in a lot of places. So like, what is the progress?
But I'm saying it's
What
only
is-
been 50 years. If we've been fighting this battle for over 400. It's going to take a very long time to get where we're
Why?
going.
But-
But we're going somewhere.
I feel like, and we've been taking the nonviolent approach this whole time, and it's gotten us fucking nowhere. It's been 400 years.
Alright,
the
so
violent
non-violent
approach
approach.
is fought back with more violence.
Okay,
That's
so
the
so you
thing.
mean to tell me that we've gotten nowhere since 1929, Martin Luther King was born, to today?
I think
Really?
the systems that were in place before to oppress us has just been institutionalized in different ways. How you're
Nobody's
measuring
arguing that.
progress?
Yeah,
how you're-
I'm
We're
not
not
arguing that.
talking
we're
about
gonna
that.
get
But
to. I'm
you
just
are
saying we've
making a
made
false
great
dichotomy
strides.
between
You're-
peaceful and violent, and saying that
I'm
one
sorry,
leads to
Harry.
progress. And we're just saying that that's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, wait, I didn't hear you. Could you
By
say that
by
again?
comparing Malcolm X and Martin Luther King in that way, you're making this false dichotomy of violence and peace, and that one of them leads to progress. And we're just saying that that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm a violent person, but I think to sit back and allow yourself to be degraded in the name of like, oh, well, I don't want them to think I'm as low as them. Like, I don't want them to think I'm
It's not about what they
immature.
think about who you are.
But that's what you're making it sound like. Like,
That's what we're
if I do this, then, they're going to see me as this. They're going to see me as this. But if I do that, I'm going to feel great. I'm going to feel like I talked my shit. I got whatever I had to say off my chest. And if they still don't agree, then whatever. That's their problem.
And I'm going to
We're
I
saying, like,
feel better
You
than
feel
I
better,
did before
but
when
then
I was just being
everyone
oppressed
else is
and
in the
silent.
same-
everybody's exactly.
But listen,
Yes, I have a question. So, there's been a lot of conversation, which is good. But how do you think taking the respectable approach or non-respectable approach inform your ability or desire to cancel?
If you take the non-violent approach or like not saying anything about cancel culture, there would be no cancel culture. Nobody would be held accountable because you're just sitting there saying nothing. And I understand what you're saying about using facts and like things like that, but you're giving them respect that they're not giving you.
and that's okay. That's a philosophy of my life. I will always. I promise you, it does not matter what you do to me. I'm not necessarily respect because I feel like you have to earn respect, but I will always like.
That's a form of respect though. Like,
But like,
not,
I choose to give that to you. Like, if you were the meanest person to me and you're dying, I'm going to help you no matter what because that's who I am as a person.
I mean, but that's your choice to make, and you can't tell me that my choice is not productive.
'Cause that's my opinion on
Yeah,
your.
that's your opinion for your life.
Right, I'm afraid to share my opinion, but I think make your own decisions, do whatever you want, sweetheart. But like, I didn't mean for her to be mean. I just like to say that. I'm sorry, but no, really, because I'm just a nice person, and that's what I really do think that if not that I'm perfect, but I really do think that if everyone's just nice and we let shit go, instead of being petty, going back and forth, you do like an eye for eye, tag for tag, that will never get you anywhere. I promise you. And I feel like the world would be better like that. But I get it that it's your choice to pick that up or leave it. So.
But like when it comes to like cancel culture, when you look on like social media, Twitter, Facebook, whatever, and you see someone like relay their experience that happened to them, you don't see them going, look at this ugly, like, whatever, this person that did this to me, like, and then everyone's like, oh yeah, that's totally what we should be saying about them. Like, no, you state the facts, you say what happened, you show evidence, you do whatever it is that, like, that shows that you are the one that is, I'm coming from this at like a sociological perspective, that shows that you are, like, reasonable and within reason to feel this way. And so that's when people take that, they go on with it to go ahead and make change. And so, like,
But that's not
saying bad things about other people doesn't help you, doesn't help them. It just, like, creates the same cycle.
I feel like in those situations they talk about facts, but at the end they'll be like, this person is blah blah blah. Like you're gonna say this is a horrible person. You're gonna say some like negative thing about them to like emphasize how much they have affected your life in a negative way.
Facts don't need emphasis. If it's true, it's true.
The things that with the facts that she just said, right? That beginning fact and how the person feels on that Facebook post, and then you get all that dragging or that we just talked about, all that the derogatory slander that what does that give to it?
Is the point invalidated because of the slander?
Yeah.
But is it helping?
No, it's
Is it
not.
helping?
It's the point. It's still true regardless of who
There's
slander
something wrong with this
who.
value system if the slander invalidates
Right, that's my
the
question. So,
facts.
do you think the dragging invalidates the problematic action or?
No.
I
You're
don't
still
think
problematic.
I don't think it adds value at all.
Why does it need to add anything? It's not for them. It's not for them to value. It's for you.
Yeah, it's for you who's not even connected to the. It's for you to feel better.
It's like-
Even though they're the person
right.
who's okay.
If you ask me, what does that say about
You're
you?
the one-
If you
yeah.
need to make someone else feel foolish to make yourself
They'll
feel better, that says
yeah.
a lot about you.
This is after they've made you feel foolish. They've oppressed you. So you're just gonna sit there and take it? That says a lot about you.
No, but we're talking about
No,
cancel
canceling.
culture. We're talking about
We're talking about
canceling.
canceling.
We're talking
Okay,
about
we're talking
canceling.
about canceling in a personal life, like in interpersonal setting.
I think
that's not
weak people have to bite back. I don't have to bite you back.
Okay.
That's why I don't even agree with any of it. That's what all this that we're getting. So that, that's why I don't understand why it's even like some people can even agree to doing. You, in the beginning, you guys are so like I believe in cancel culture. I think I practice this. I do it. Like how even after hearing all this, you still feel that same way that you cancel. Oh, okay.
So on that,
I just don't know how
to
even.
bring it all in. So final say yes or no. Cancel culture, yes or no. Sorry y'all, but due to some technical difficulties, we had to cut it short. But please stay tuned. We do have a lot of content ready for y'all, and we captured a lot of good conversation today. We are not only available on YouTube, we're also available on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Spotify. So stay tuned. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.